All right, welcome everyone to Tampa Bay Banter podcast. This is our first episode here. I'm so excited. I am your host, Austin. This is Ian Beckles I have with me. Ian is a former NFL guard. He was in the NFL for 9 years, mainly with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right here at home. Then he moved over to a radio personality, big media guy here in Tampa. He also launched his own brand, Dignitary. We're going to dive into all of that. We're going to dive into the past Buccaneers season that we just ended here as well. Can't wait to get his thoughts. He also has his own podcast now, In the Trenches, so you got to check that out. What I love about Ian is he keeps it real. So, Ian, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, and I don't think I was aware that this was the first one.
This is the first one.
It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure.
Hey, I'm excited to have you on here, man. This is going to be great. I want to start off with something that's obviously really relevant with the people's minds here in Tampa Bay, and that is the Buccaneers season, how we just ended. So before going into anything that's happened in the offseason so far, give me your assessment of the Buccaneers this year.
Well, I thought they had a good season. Before the season started, you never know how good you're going to be. You should be better when Baker Mayfield comes back because, you could look for a quarterback forever. Some teams look for quarterback forever. We have a quarterback now, so that's a big piece of the puzzle. And, I think Buccaneer fans, have been spoiled a little bit because we do win some Super Bowls every once in a while. And, making the playoffs is not good enough. But in a lot of cities, making the playoffs is a big deal. So, when you have a home playoff game, it's hard for me to hear fans complain about that. We lost to Washington, who is still in it. So it's not like the Buccaneers were a bad football team. Were they good enough to go to the championship? I don't think defensively they were good enough. And in the offseason, obviously Jason Light has a lot of work to do. Mike Evans is getting older. And does Chris Godwin come back? The defense needs some revamping, so there's some work to do in the offseason.
Yeah, and Mike Evans, obviously huge, breaking Jerry Rice's 1,000-yard record. Tell me, how much longer do you think he can go, really? How many seasons now? Is this 9th year?
Yeah. This is the thing with Mike Evans and me, all right? Mike Evans plays a certain way. He plays a very physical game. He's not the fastest guy. He's never been the fastest guy. I've been saying for the last 3 years, he's not going to be the same guy. And he still gets 1,000 yards. So I hate to speak against Mike because I'm wrong every darn time. Like the odds are he's probably not going to get 1,000 yards next year.
Yeah.
But then again, he does it every year.
Now he's going to do 2,000.
Yeah, he might. We don't know. So Mike Evans to me may go down as the best Buccaneer ever if he gets maybe 2 more years. I don't think he's surpassed Derek Brooks or Leroy Summit yet.
He's got to be close.
But he's getting close.
He's got to be
close. And
the
thing with those 2 other, aforementioned young men who I both know or knew, I knew Leroy Summit and I know Derek Brooks. Mike Evans is as good a person off the field as those other 2 dudes. And to me, that's even more important.
Yeah, he is such a charitable guy, done so much for the community. I think it was the mayor that even gave a Mike Evans Day earlier this year. So that's really cool. What I want to do next, I want to play a clip for you that I found on Instagram, and I just want to get your reaction to it.
I'm scared.
No, don't be scared. Okay. But I want to get your feedback on this and how you think, because it just happened. It's pretty, I would say, I guess, controversial. So I'll play it for you. I'll put it up on the screen so the audience here at home can see it.
Man, seriously, screw this guy for the way he did Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers, and really especially Baker Mayfield, but also the Buccaneers. Imagine saying that you're going to accept a new contract as part of that new deal, saying you won't take a second interview with the Jacksonville Jaguars and then sneaking over there and taking the job anyways, which is what it looks like is going to happen. And honestly, even if he didn't, do you really want him back?
So, yeah, give me your feedback on it. Is this guy a piece of shit, or is this just business in the NFL?
Funny. That guy is Pat Donovan of the Pat and Aaron Show on 620. That's the station I used to be on. I'm on their show every Thursday. Yeah, so, but if you listen to me, I don't give a rat's ass who you are and your opinion. Yeah. If I think something differently, I'm going that way. I think he's wrong.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I think it's easy. Are the Buccaneers better off because Liam Cohen left? Nope, we're not, because it would have been better if Liam Cohen came back and Baker Mayfield was accustomed to the offense. Yeah. So we took a little step back. But let's go to Liam Cohen, okay? If you remember the name Byron Leftwich was the offensive coordinator here probably 3 years ago. He passed up the Jacksonville job to stay with the Buccaneers. Then faltered a couple 2 years. Now Byron Leftwich is out of football.
Yeah.
So it's easy to say that Liam Cohen shouldn't have treated the Buccaneers that way, but let's be human, all right?
Sure.
I tell you what, I work for myself, so I'm not the greatest example, but if you're a CPA and you're working for a firm and it's a great firm and somebody walks into your building and goes, I want to give you 4 times more money.
Yeah.
I don't care how it happens. I got to go.
Sure.
So Liam Cohen is becoming one of 32 head coaches in the NFL. You may not ever get a chance to do that again.
Right.
So however it happened, and you can say that I didn't. Get out of here.
Well,
Everybody has a number.
I think that's the problem, though, with people, right? It's the deception is what they're upset about more than anything.
How many other people have their job in the open like that, so everybody else can comment on it?
Sure, that's true.
I like to compare it to this. You remember Live? Are you a golf fan?
No, not really. But
Well,
I
you'll
know
probably understand this.
Okay.
Live Golf, okay?
Yes, I'm
It's something
familiar.
created by the Saudis, right?
Mm-hmm.
A couple of golfers went to Live Golf to make oodles of millions of dollars.
Sure.
PGA said, you guys are not American. You are the worst people. And then 6 months later, they were in bed with Live Golf. So
Sure.
I don't want anybody to tell me somebody didn't make the right decision for their lives,
Yeah.
okay? So is it terrible for Bucks? Sure.
Yeah.
I'm a Buccaneer fan. I want him to stay here.
Yeah.
But I applaud him for going because he doesn't owe anybody anything.
Yeah, well, and we got to applaud and thank him, I guess, for the job he did do while he was here.
Exactly.
A great offensive coordinator, great play caller. So, all right, so we got that out of the way. I was so curious to hear what you were going to think about that. So, what about what player, I guess I should say, really kind of impressed you this year that you were not expecting?
Bucky Irvin for sure.
Yeah,
I came
for
out
sure.
of nowhere as a rookie. This is my thing with running backs, and I'm pretty consistent. I would never get excited about running backs because they come and go.
Yeah, sure.
They come and go.
They really do.
The odds of Bucky Irvin being here 2 years from now are not great, okay? Because I asked somebody, they go, well, what do you mean? I said, well, name me a running back that has flourished for 4 straight years, and I'll show you a Hall of Fame running back.
Right.
And there's not that many of them.
Right,
So
sure.
right now in the league, Chris McCaffrey's done,
Yep.
okay? We have Henry. We have Saquon. That's it.
Yeah.
Everybody else is just, interchangeable pieces.
Right.
So to me, it's more important that you have a great offensive line.
Yeah.
And the Buccaneers' offensive line last year was probably as good as it's ever been ever in the history of the Buccaneers, or definitely competing.
Sure.
And that line may get better next year if they stay healthy. So the offensive line as a whole, I thought was great. Kate Otten started off like a rocket and then plummeted. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was physical. I'm not sure. Defensively, Vita Vea is up and down to me.
Yeah.
I'm good friends with Warren Sapp, who I played with, and we and him go back and forth. I still think Vita's a good player.
Yeah.
He thinks he's a stiff. Okay, so well, I said to Warren, I go, you're comparing him to yourself.
Yeah,
and I go, you
can't
have
do.
to compare him to like Vince Wilfork or one of them big guys in the middle. So defensively, Levante David doesn't seem to get old like Mike Evans,
Yeah,
but I
seriously.
not that many players impressed me defensively this year.
Wow, really? Okay. Well, what would you say then? You mentioned about the offensive line staying healthy. What do you think is going to be the key to a successful season next year? Is it that offensive line?
Well, if your offensive line stays healthy, you have a good chance. Okay, I know everybody looks at the playoffs like you got to have this quarterback and you got to have this and you got. Boy, if you have a good offensive line, you don't have to be great around them. Okay,
Right.
Philadelphia's offensive line is fantastic, and it doesn't matter who's running now. It just so happens they have one of the best runners in the world right now, and they're winning by running the ball. Not many teams do that. So there's going to be AJ Brown out there, but they run the football. And that's why I thought the Detroit Lions were going to keep going because they ran the football on everybody, but they just had too many injuries.
Sure.
So to me, the name of my podcast is In the Trenches, okay? That's where you win football games.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
you remember the Buccaneers when they won their last Super Bowl against Kansas City? You know who the best player on the field was that day?
Was it not Tom Brady?
Patrick Mahomes by far. It wasn't close.
Yeah.
Go back and watch the game.
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes was straight arming guys, making guys miss, spinning, throwing the ball off his back foot, and it was going off the receiver's hands.
Yeah.
He lost. But the reason why he lost because our defensive line was after him.
Sure.
They're after him. And if you let Patrick Mahomes sit back and have time, they're going to kill you.
Yeah.
So everybody makes a big deal out of the interceptions and the quarterbacks where all the games are won inside.
Yeah. I'm sure you see all the memes and jokes on the internet about Patrick Mahomes and the referees and how they're so biased. Do you buy into that, or you think it's just all talk?
Nope. Now listen, this is the long and short of it, okay? When your team loses,
Yeah.
there's going to be a couple plays you don't like, a couple calls you don't like.
Yeah.
Every every week, every team, there's going to be a couple plays that go against you.
Of course.
So because Kansas City's winning,
Yep.
it's magnified.
Yeah, exactly.
I do know this. At the end of the game, if there's any seconds on the clock and Mahomes has the ball, you're in trouble. So you can say what you want about why they're winning, but that guy wins most of the times he steps on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you're right. It's just the Kansas City hate because everybody's so sick of them at this point. We just want to call it every possible
Correct. It couldn't be because they're good. It couldn't be because they're well coached or they have great players. It couldn't be that.
Yeah, of course not. No. So going back to the Bucs real quick, obviously we know we have to make a coaching change on offense. What are you thinking about the coaching staff in general as a whole? Todd Bowles, how do you think everything is played out? Where do you see a significant change coming if needed? What's your thoughts on the coaching staff?
Well, we have to bring in an offensive coordinator, obviously.
Yep.
I would think that Todd Bowles and Jason Light are going to bring in somebody who's like-minded, than Liam Cohen. I've been in the media for the Buccaneers for almost 25 years, okay? Yeah. They've been talking about being a running team for 25 years, and last year was the first year they ever did it.
Yeah, sure.
So don't fall back on that because that's how you win football games. So whoever comes in, I don't want this run and gun guy. I want somebody comes in who's going to pound the football.
Yeah.
As far as Todd Bowles goes, I've always been a Todd Bowles fan.
Me too.
I ask people this question: do they fight for Todd Bowles? And the answer has to be yes, because I'm not sure if we're like uber talented as a football team. So. When Canales was going to leave, everybody's like, "Oh, we got to get rid of Bowles and keep Canales because we might lose him." We win with defense.
Right.
We have a different coordinator every year. We go from Byron Leftwich to Canales to Liam Cohen, and the only thing that's common in that is Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're winning with Todd Bowles in there. So Liam Cohen's going to go. I don't know if he's going to be successful there. Canales wasn't successful this year, and I think honestly, Liam Cohen and Canales got more credit than they deserve because I think Baker Mayfield is a dude.
Yeah.
Without Baker Mayfield, I don't know if their play calling's that great.
Right, yeah, sure. I mean, he is unbelievable the way he puts plays together out of nowhere. I mean, it's really been exciting to watch. I want to go back now, take a transition into your NFL career and talk about that a little bit because it's always been kind of fascinating to me what it would be like to be a rookie in that locker room. So, like, I was in the professional wrestling business for a while. Okay. I know what it was like to be the green guy, and all the kind of crap you had to go through, almost kind of like hazing in a sense.
Okay.
Not to say that's the same at all for the NFL, but that's kind of what I'm curious about as being a rookie in that locker room. What's that experience like?
Funny, I don't think anybody's ever asked me that question. It's a good question. Coming in as a rookie, the first practice I was second string, and the second practice I was first string. So I don't think I got hazed like other people. I wasn't a guy at the end of the bench. I was always playing. Now that being said, I had to go get donuts, do some other things that you don't do later on.
Sure.
Some veterans treat you a certain way. I remember there was a defensive back, Odie Harris, and I was sitting on the bus, and I was on the third row, and Odie walked up, and he goes, "Rookie, get to the back."
Oh, wow.
And I looked at him, and I go, first of all, you don't play. Second of all, you can't make me get to the back.
Right.
So why don't you keep stepping?
Yeah. Get it.
And everybody heard it. Everybody heard it, and they kept walking. He kept walking.
Yeah.
No, I could have got up and walked to the back. Then everybody make me go to the back. They're going to test a rookie. The first day of practice, one of the veterans tested me. I said, I'm not that dude. They tested me, and I beat the tar out of them, and I didn't have a fight after that.
Wow.
But that's not the place to be weak.
Yeah. Oh, I would imagine.
An NFL locker room is not the place to be weak because you're gonna be chin checked. That's for sure.
Yeah. Who were some of the guys that when you were playing with, like you mentioned, Warren Sapp earlier, Derek Brooks, like who took you under their wing? Any of those veterans really kind of looked out for you? Or?
Well, you could ask both of them. I was with Warren Sapp a couple weeks ago at the Buccaneers game, and he pointed at me. He goes, "This is one of the only guys in the world who's kicked my ass." And I never thought about it, but Warren came in, and I was in my fourth year, and he was a rookie.
Yeah,
I was kicking his ass.
Sure, yeah.
Afterwards, when I went to Philadelphia, I didn't want no parts of him. Like I didn't want to see Warren Sapp. Okay, Warren Sapp was nothing to mess with.
Right.
All right.
Sure.
So,
he was a beast.
Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp is that guy. He's a guy. He's gonna chin check you. He said something to me very early in his career, and I said, "Come here and sit down. Sit."
Yeah.
He sat. I go, "You will not talk to me like that." He goes, "We're good." And we've been good since.
That was the end.
Now, if I fail that test,
yeah,
he's going to keep. I've seen him do it. He's going to keep coming at you.
Yeah.
He just wants to know that if we end up in an alley, he's going to be all right.
Yeah, got
That's Warren's mentality. And
like
Derek
that.
Brooks was more of the guy, and he came in with Warren.
Mm-hmm.
So those are not good examples for me because they came in and they were looking up at me.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because
sure.
I'd been there.
Sure.
But Derek ended up being that guy. Warren was the guy to chin check you,
Yeah.
and Derek was the guy, come on, sit down, let me talk to you.
And
he was a fatherly type of dude.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, he seemed. I have not personally met Derek Brooks, but he seems like a great guy. Again, does a lot for the community.
Yep.
And all that. So when you were playing starting quarterback, were we at Brad Johnson then, or who? Were?
Oh no, I had Vinny Testaverde. I had
the Testaverde days.
Craig Erickson.
Okay.
I didn't have anybody. Steve DeBerg.
Nobody we really.
Nobody worth a darn. To be honest with you.
Yeah, no worries. So what about your transition to Philly? I'm always curious in that too. Like, what is that like? You have to get up, go to a new place. You're unfamiliar with new locker room, new people. Is that an overwhelming feeling to be traded to another team, or just walk me through that experience? What that was like?
I don't do overwhelmed.
Yeah,
I just don't do it.
Okay.
I was taught very early.
Teach me that.
It doesn't help. I was taught. Listen, you could ask people around me. Yeah. You see where I am right now? Stay here.
Right. Yeah.
I don't move from here.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. If you piss me off, I'll go somewhere else. But my everyday life, I really stay here.
Yeah.
A lot of it's marijuana, but I stay here. I stay very even keeled.
Right.
Even when Helene hit us, 2.5 feet of water ran through our building at a Dignitary Cafe. Through the whole building, 2.5 feet.
Oh my God.
And I live right behind the cafe. And so I'm sitting in my house that night in 6 inches of water.
Yeah.
Just thinking
God.
what's happening? Because I was a guy that was like, I'm not scared of storms. Anyways, that was pretty scary. So when I walked over to the Dignitary Cafe that morning, everybody was there cleaning up, and they were just looking at me to see how I react.
Right.
So I felt it.
Course,
and I walked in the building, everybody's just staring at me, and everybody's looking at me, and I look around, and within 5 seconds, and I go, where do we start? When everybody kind of looked at me, I go, well, let's go. I mean, nobody's going to feel sorry for us.
Yeah.
So let's rock and roll. And I think everybody was at ease at that time because if I walked in and go, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never been that guy.
Yeah, you're the leader there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's a leadership move, but
I think so.
Even with my son falls and my ex-wife would be like, I'm like, and he falls and I go, get up.
Right.
And he gets up.
I do think that's leadership quality.
If you run up and you go, oh my God, if you're all right, they're going to start to cry.
Yeah.
But if you say, get up, you're okay. And that's the way I was brought up. You know what I mean? Some people may think that's tough love. That's
right.
okay. It's okay. That's okay. I just didn't want my son to grow up to be a pussy.
Yeah, no, I
That's
agree
real.
with you.
That's real.
I like that parenting style. So you weren't overwhelmed by going to Philly, but still, what was the differences, I guess, between that locker room and Tampa at that time?
I think locker rooms are locker rooms if you're a real person.
Yeah.
I always get along with people. I can probably count on one hand guys I didn't get along with in 9 years.
Okay, wow.
So I just got there, and football is one of those sports where if you can play, everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you can't play, then you're going to be, alienated and it's just not going to work.
Right.
And what's funny is you could be an established player because we had an established player come and play with us. He had the Pro Bowler and everything, but he was the P word.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work. Like
Right.
if you just have to be an NFL locker room is for the realest people on the planet.
Right.
If there's any fake to you, football is the realest sport on the planet.
Yeah.
You can't fake it.
Right.
Because say you're playing youth sports, okay? I coach my son for many years. I'm coaching Chamberlain football right now.
Yep.
If you put your son in youth soccer, your son could stand there and not move and he'd be fine.
Yeah.
Doing football.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll get called out real quick.
Cleaned, okay? You get knocked out. So football's that sport. Basketball has got some violence to it, but it's just football is just
it's a whole different animal.
Violence. The whole thing is the premise of it is violent, and if you're not violent, don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that you're involved in youth football, coaching your son at Chamberlain, because I was also curious, like, what would be the advice to these young guys who want to get into the NFL? What have you learned that you would pass along to them? What advice?
Well, my son doesn't go to Chamberlain. I coached my son when he was young.
Got it. Okay.
I'm coaching at Chamberlain now.
Got it. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
You said as far as what?
As far as like what advice would you give to these young athletes who want to make it to the NFL one day, like you did?
Well, I coach, so that's who I should be talking to, right?
Yeah.
By the end of the year, my players thought I was crazy, but they still respected me. You know what I mean? And I don't know if I was in the wrong place because I just saw a video the other day, the 20 worst schools in Florida, and Chamberlain was number 5.
Oh, wow.
And it ain't like Florida's known for scholastics.
No, it's not.
Okay?
It's certainly not. No.
About halfway through the season, when I was asking a bunch of questions, I realized I wasn't coaching at Jesuit or Plant.
Right.
I was coaching at Chamberlain. All those kids have one parent that don't care a lot of the times.
It's terrible.
A lot of these kids have 1-4s. They're walking around the building and doing drugs. And that's what I was dealing with.
Right.
And it just dawned on me that, like, I was trying to teach these kids that you had to make it so elementary, like they couldn't pick anything up.
Right.
And I'm trying to inspire the kids and look at them in the face, and they look you in the face, and then 2 seconds later, their eyes go all over the place. Like, they don't have any focus.
Yeah.
I was uber focused my whole life.
Right.
Like, I want to play football, and there's nothing that was going to waver. These kids just want to be football players, but they ain't putting it in.
Right.
They're not putting in the time and the effort. Now, I'm saying that's Chamberlain football. It may be different at Platt. It may be different at Jesuit. It may be different at Armwood. I don't know. Yeah. But these kids ain't what we used to be.
Yeah,
they're just not. But then, and I say this all the time. Every generation gets softer.
Sure.
I'm not as hard as my dad. I'll never be as hard as my dad.
Yeah.
And my son will never be as hard as me.
Yeah.
But he's still hard.
Yeah.
You see, so this generation is, I think we're in trouble.
Well, it's good.
I do.
Well, it's good for those kids to get that tough love mentality that you bring to the table.
I got that.
I think that's good.
It got me. I think Chamberlain was probably the best place for me.
Yeah.
Because you can't get in trouble.
Yeah.
You can't get in.
You can do whatever you want with these kids. Like, you're not getting any trouble.
When I was a youth coach, I didn't even curse.
Yeah,
With a 17-year-old boys,
you let him have it.
I was out of control. I go home and I go, wow, I said what? Like, I said crazy stuff,
right.
But the kids react to that.
Yeah, that's what they need.
That's what they need. Yeah. And I'm listening to them speak, and there's not a lot of eloquence going on anywhere.
Yeah.
It's a lot of cuss words and then rhyming the N-word with the N-word, and you know how that goes. So you got to kind of dumb it down for them.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I chewed some ass, and that's the only way to do it.
You enjoy it, though? Be honest. You can be honest here.
That's all I got. There's times where it was the most enjoyable thing around.
Yeah.
And there's other times where I just like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Like, for instance, Chad Wood was our head coach. I brought Chad in, as the offensive coordinator. Chad ended up being the head coach. Last year or the previous year, we'll go back 3 years. Chamberlain hadn't won in 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so we're taking over garbage. And we went 8-3 this year. They hadn't won in 3 years, okay? And they went 8-3 this year. So we definitely changed the mentality of a lot of these kids.
Yeah.
But I've never been so disappointed when Chamberlain had a playoff game for the first playoff game in 4 years. And on Monday, we had 15 kids in practice out of 40. Wow. Playoff week.
Wow, that's
we had
disappointing.
15 kids out of 40.
Wow.
And at that time, was just after the storms hit. And I Ubered from South Tampa to go to Chamberlain. And I got there and I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, I care too much. I care more than these kids.
Right.
Like, these kids should care.
Right.
I got my seniors, maybe in the last week of last time they ever played football, missed the practice. Oh. And I just didn't get that. So at that time, did I enjoy it? No, I was pissed. But at the end of it, when the kids come up to you and say, "Thank you, coach," and "Coach, you did a lot," and blah blah blah, stuff like that, that's priceless.
Feels rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to your NFL career real quick. Just give me one kind of real big highlight or memory that you feel like you had during that time that like you'll just hold on to forever. What was like a really big moment for you?
Yeah, I played 9 years and didn't play in a playoff game. Okay, so I didn't have a whole lot of success. But I
don't mean to laugh at that.
No, please. I laugh all the time. It's funny. And we played. Ironically, we played Philadelphia in Philadelphia. Sam White's first game, and Ricky Waters was on the other side. And that was Ricky's first game. And he came out without his helmet, and everybody was going crazy. It ended up being the for what game when he short armed the ball, and then they turned on him right away. But that game, at the end of the game, in the fourth quarter, we came up to the sideline, and Sam goes, "Anybody have a play?" And I go, "Run 16 tag." And he goes, He goes, I'll get the block. Just run it. So we run 16 tag. I look up and Bill Romanowski was?
Yeah, I remember.
Bill Romanowski was the outside linebacker. So I had to pull on Bill Romanowski. So I was like, well, I just bragged on and I've got to pull on this maniac, right? Right. So I came and I pulled and I brought every lunch pail I got. And I brought it and I hit him. And the second I hit him, I just hit him with his feet wrong. Yeah. And I decapitated him. And the running back, Eric, ran off my butt, and we ran for 40 yards for a touchdown. Oh, wow. So that won the game. Yeah. You don't get too many moments like that as a lineman. Yeah. You don't get too many. So that's one of those ones I won't forget.
That's a great story. After those 9 seasons in the NFL, how was it making that transition out of the NFL? A lot of times you hear these horrible stories about guys who lose all their money or just are depressed after they leave the NFL. But you've made a great transition into the media here in Tampa Bay after leaving the NFL. Tell me about how that transition went for you. Was it difficult? What was the thought process?
Everything is difficult. Okay, so and I want to defend my brothers because there's been videos and there's been documentaries on how athletes act after they play. Sure. There's very few occupations that are that short. Okay, so if I tell a lawyer, my kids grew up in Culver Files. It's a bougie area. That's because I played ball. Right. If you took one of the lawyers, I think Manny and Gordon was in there, and Catania, all these lawyers are in there. Sure. When they're 31 years old, if I said you have to stop being a lawyer, do something else, they'd have to leave. They'd have to leave the neighborhood. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's really. When you make that much, because after I finished playing ball, I looked at my bank account and I was like, jeez, I am rich. Right. There's no way I could spend that money. Yeah. Yeah, you can. Because yes, life is about to come.
It goes fast.
3 kids and property taxes and blah, blah, blah. That money's gone. Like, I made good money out through the way and I still don't have any money left, okay? So I think everybody thinks that athletes just blow their money. Well, a lot of times it's inevitable. Sure. Okay, because you also have a certain way of living. Yeah. So I live in Culver Files, and now I'm not in the league. I'm not leaving Culver Files. Right. Like that's where I want to stay. Now, if I didn't fall into a great job, I would have had to leave. Right. Now, I don't believe in luck. That's one of my statements. I don't believe in luck. I believe in hard work and preparation. Yeah. Nobody gets lucky in anything. I really believe that. Right. I was blessed for somebody said to me, you'd be good in sports radio, and this is how it went. Jane Portnoy, we're on the treadmill. Jane worked for the Bucs, and she goes, you'd be good in sports radio. And I go, what is that? And she goes, people are on. I go, never heard it before. And she goes, well, put on 620. And I go, okay. So I drove home and I put it on, and I go, well, that's awful. Well, that's awful. I go, these guys will have no idea what they're talking about. Wow. So then they had a tryout, and I think 20 people tried out, and I got the job. Nice. I started off on like a pregame. Then they gave me my own Monday show. Then I started to take over for Chris Thomas when he was alive. Chris Thomas passed. Then I took over for Chris Thomas. They brought Ron in with me. We were on for 20-something years. Kind of changed slots. We went to drive time. And then it gets to a point where you make too much money, they can't afford you. So here I am.
Well, you do a great job. Yeah, and in the trenches, too. So tell me what got that started. Was it just like you wanted another project to go along with it, or how did that become about?
Well, Radio Influence, they asked me a long time ago. They said, you should do a podcast, and I didn't really know what that was about. Sure. I want to say I've had my podcast for 10 years, probably. Oh, wow. And that's pretty early.
Yeah, very early.
Everybody now is jumping into
Everyone's
podcasts.
Got it. Yeah.
Everybody has a podcast. Yep. When I got to, it's funny, when I left iHeart and I went to Cox Media, and then I went back to iHeart. And when I went back to iHeart, the bosses were like, well, we have to make sure that everybody has to do social media. And I go, okay. They're like, well, you have to have, I go, what do you mean? Like, they didn't think I did social media. And I go, guys, before I left, I had a Ron and Ian page that I posted on every day. They're like, what? They didn't even know it, all right? Yeah. So, with the podcast, they go, well, we want everybody to have a podcast. They said T-Kraz has a podcast and he has 1,000 people a month. And I go, I get 30,000 a week. They're like, what? So like I jumped on this thing really early. Yeah. And like this is the first episode. You will not have 30,000. Okay, you start from zero.
I'm well prepared.
Okay, so you start at zero, and you have to get to 30,000. So absolutely. I started at zero as well. 10 years ago. Okay, and let me tell you, it's hard to bring it up.
Yeah, yeah.
It really is.
Hey, well, I'm doing good if I got you on my first episode.
No, you're doing good, but hey, it'll go up. It'll get better from here.
So tell us about the Dignitary Cafe and how that came about, because that's also been there for a while. I remember, I think when you first opened, you probably don't remember me, but I came in there.
I remember your face.
Yep, and I met you at that time when you very first opened. It was a really cool spot. I'm sure it's changed a bit.
A lot.
Yeah, since then.
A
But
lot.
you're right there on the corner of Gandy and West Shore,
Yep.
right? Tell us a little bit how you got started with that and why.
Well, I used to be a drinker. I'm not anymore. I don't drink. I've been about 3.5 years. I just don't drink anymore. I could still. It's not. Well, I'm gonna say I was an alcoholic. When you go, but if you drink, do a questionnaire if I'm an alcoholic and you're an alcoholic. Okay, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
That's everybody. I like to drink and I look forward to drinking. And I didn't drink one drink. I drank a bunch of drinks, and and at the end of it, it wasn't beneficial for my life.
Yeah.
And as I get older, I can't keep on doing the same shit.
Yeah.
And I got to make some better decisions. And I just woke up one morning and I was like, I'm done. Like, I can't do that. Because through my whole life, I knew I wanted to stop drinking. And finally, I just go, like, I used to go, I'm going to stop drinking for 3 months. And then start right back where I was at. Okay? So it didn't make any sense. So I just said, I'm done. I'm done drinking. And then, like, literally the next day, this young lady, her name was Sonia, she goes, have you ever tried kava? And I was like, never heard. I go, how do you spell it? And I go, I've never heard of it before. She took me to Mad Hatter's and then a couple other places in St. Pete.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that tastes terrible. And then I got introduced to Kratom. And then so Kratom is what really sucked me in.
Okay.
And then afterwards, kava just became an acquired thing. And then I came back, and 3 weeks later, after I was driving to St. Petersburg to go get my Kratom, I said to somebody, I go, well, where's the closest place in South Tampa? And it was just crickets.
Oh, okay.
At that time, there was no kava bars in South Tampa. Now there's quite a few. But I was like, that's right there. All the sirens are going off, and I was like, I have a building. I like kava. And why would I drive all the way over there? I'll just create it here, and I could just wake up and just go there. Because at the time, I was living in the building because I was going through a divorce.
Okay.
So, long story short, made a kava bar right there on West Shore and Gandy. It took a while for it to kick up. I had to bring in a business associate, Frank, who's not there anymore. I have my business associate, it's Tom Ponzo now. Didn't work out with Frank, but Frank brought the knowledge in. And since then, we become a marijuana doctor. We become a podcast room. We have a dispensary in there now. We have a private lounge. We have a smoke shop. So,
Wow.
I like to make money.
Yeah, why did you
to make money?
Why did you have the building in the first place? Was it just an investment, or?
Yeah, well, all my years in the Tampa Bay area, I've always had an office.
Okay.
Always. Like I could show you 8 different places where I've always had a home base.
Yeah.
So I've had clothing lines, and I had a magazine back in the day. So I've done a few different things where I always had a home base. So there was just really my home base.
Yeah.
So somewhere for me to, because I can't work at home. I just need to be away.
Sure.
So I was paying $1,000 a month or something like that to have that little area, and I made it into an area where we could hang out and drink and smoke and watch football and do some stuff like that. And then when the landlord said, "Hey, the other guys are leaving, you lose the whole building or you got to go,"
Right.
and I said, "I'll take over the whole building."
Wow.
So I ate it for a couple of years, and then finally became a kava bar, and now we're flourishing.
Yeah. So how are you doing now post hurricane? I know you just said you had 2 feet of water in there. Are you guys back up and going, or what's...
Well, I think when it was all said and done, we had 1 day without sales.
Oh, okay.
Like
so you did all right.
Well, no, I didn't do all right. 1 day without sales, we were on the curb, selling stuff. You know what I mean?
Okay,
So we were in there hustling, and we were smashing walls out immediately. All the stuff you have to do.
Yeah.
And we weathered it. Okay,
Right.
we weathered it. Like, our landlord gave us a couple breaks, which was good. And I think, and I really believe this, okay? As I'm sitting in the 6 inches of water in my house, and I walk into my building, when you fast forward it to, it's 6 months later, when it dips that low, and there was a time where I was sitting in my house with my head in my hands, and I was almost overwhelmed. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I was like, this is a lot.
Right.
So I left my shop that was in shambles, okay? So in order to cut all the walls out in the building, that's a lot.
Yeah.
You got to move everything, and it was shambles.
Terrible.
And I would leave shambles. I lost my car. I lost my golf cart. So I had to walk to my house
Right.
to shambles.
Ugh.
My floors were up there's plywood that was rotting, and I was like, this is a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot for a little bit. Fast forward to 6 months, I got broke off in insurance. Okay, I got broke off.
Oh,
okay,
really?
so to the point where I do it again.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And the shop is 100% better aesthetically. It just moves better, and that's because that happened. So I think in the long run, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to us business-wise.
Wow, okay.
It made us reestablish some things, and you waste money there, and let's do this. And so now we're not wasting any more money, and I think we're in a better place.
Yeah, even though it's awful, it happened. It's a fresh start.
COVID did that to some people, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It made you realize, well, I'm just wasting money and wasting space, and I could do it here, and it just become more efficient.
Yeah, so throw out the address real quick.
4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard.
Got it. Okay, yeah. So if anybody wants to check that out, definitely go do that. So tell me, we're going to wrap it up here shortly.
All right.
Just tell me, what about some big plans you got going on in the future? Anything coming up you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, I'm not back in radio, but I never really left. Okay,
Sure.
I call myself the prostitute of radio in the Tampa Bay area. I don't know if anybody else that hips, hops, and jumps on other radio stations that are actually against each other.
Wow, yeah,
like Mike Calta is my brother.
Right.
All right, like Mike Calta's had me on his show every Monday for 3 years now.
Yeah,
I'm not a sponsor.
right.
He just digs it. You know what I
Would
mean?
you do Bubba show?
I've done Bubba's show.
Yeah, say that.
I wouldn't do it now.
A lot of heat there.
I did Bubba's show when I just left radio.
Yeah,
and I didn't know Bubba.
yeah.
Now I know Bubba.
I
I would never, ever, ever do Bubba's show again.
don't blame you.
Ever. I don't know any person that's ever been associated with him that doesn't hate the man.
Yeah, he's got
Straight
a
up.
lot of haters for sure.
He's terrible. He's not good people.
No,
he's not good people.
Yeah.
So now I'm bouncing back and forth on the bone. I was on Johnny B's show yesterday.
Yeah.
I was on JP's show a little while ago. Then Pat and Aaron on 620, they were like, "Hey man, I know you're kind of with the bone, but we like to bring you in on Thursday to talk football or whatever." So I asked Mike, I go, "Yo, Mike, this is your competitor," and he looks at me, he goes, "They're not my competitor," and he's right.
Yeah.
And I said, he won't care if I say this. I go, "Mike, there's no more money in radio." He looked at me and he goes, "I took it all," and he's 100% right.
I love it.
So what I do is I'm just bouncing around and I'm just trying to pump up my brand, Dignitary, which has grown in the last few years. And just trying to stay relevant with the podcasts. And I see another 2 or 3 or 4 podcasts being created here in the next little while. We're starting to get involved with cigars, and we have a smoke shop. And there's just so much knowledge out there. We were talking about PlayStation. I play the hell out of Madden and NCAA. I think I could stream that, and I think my mind... Like, I look at the game differently.
Yeah, sure.
Like
I bet you do.
I run the ball, bro. I run the ball, bro.
Yeah,
man.
I'd love to play you sometime.
Let's do it.
We'll have to do that.
You look confident. I'm scared.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty good, I think, actually.
Yeah?
Are you playing, like, all Madden mode, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like to tell
Wait
people
a second.
I like to tell people this.
Yeah.
There's levels to this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah.
Dizzy, who's on the bone, he said, "You play NCAA?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, you want to play me?" I go, "Yeah." So we got the little friend thing, and we played the other night, and I beat the brakes.
Really?
I think I beat him 40-7 twice.
Well, we'll have to set that up one time. We'll get that.
We'll get the Madden going.
We'll get the Madden.
You got to
going.
come to Dignitary.
Yeah, I definitely will. So I like to end the show by doing a quick lightning round. Okay,
All right.
So this is just a fun way to end the show. I'm going to put 60 seconds. Well, Stella will put 60 seconds on her clock here. And I'm going to just read out 10 different things. There's no wrong answer. It's just this or that, okay?
All right.
And I'm going to start with an easy one because I just think this one's going to be easy for you. So you got to get them all in 60 seconds.
Okay.
And maybe I'll send you a prize.
Okay. I like
All right.
prizes.
You, Stella, are you ready? All right. In 3, 2, 1. Bucks game at Raymond James or a Lightning game at Amalie Arena?
Lightning game.
St. Pete Beach or Clearwater Beach?
Neither.
Ybor City Nightlife or Hyde Park Village Dining?
Hyde Park.
Armature Works or Sparkman Wharf?
I've never been to Sparkman, so Armature.
Cuban Sandwich or Wings?
Wings.
Gasparilla Festival or the Florida State Fair?
Anything but Gasparilla.
Riverwalk or Bayshore Boulevard?
Both.
Well, you don't drink. The next one was cocktail or beer, so we'll skip that one. South Tampa Charm or St. Pete artsy
South
vibe?
Tampa Charm.
Yep. And watching a band or relaxing on a rooftop bar in downtown Tampa?
Live band.
All right, there it goes. He did it in only 38 seconds. Congratulations, Ian.
Yeah, I know what I like.
So just tell everybody one last time how they find you, if they want to find you on Instagram or your podcast. How do we get a hold of you?
Well, I'm on a couple of radio stations. I do Instagram. I don't really do anything else. It's Ian_Beckles. In the Trenches is my podcast. Come and hang out Dignitary Cafe, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. And we're about to start a little marketing, some influencer marketing. And I'm going to talk to you, too. I mean, you're pretty influential out there. And we're going to send some people out to people's restaurants and businesses. And I think that's the future of marketing.
Yeah, awesome.
Influencers.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
I happen to know everybody in the Tampa area.
Yep.
So I'm going to be the one sending people to different places. So that's kind of the next thing on the docket.
Awesome, man. Well, I would love to come out and support that however
That'd
I
be
can.
great.
And I appreciate you supporting me coming on the show.
Anytime, brother.
Tampa Bay Banter, episode 1. That's a wrap. We'll see you next time.